or regard for others. The grandiosity is demonstrated by an exaggerated and inflated sense of self-importance. Believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high-status people. High status is usually defined by attractiveness, power, some coveted subjective quality, or wealth. They have a sense of entitlement or superiority and require excessive admiration and attention from others to regulate a fluctuating sense of self-worth. They are often, though it is usually concealed, deeply envious of others, ultimately dissatisfied with themselves, and believe that others are envious of them. And lastly, the narcissistic personality type is extremely shallow and lacks any true depth. This type shows an air of arrogance and superficiality, with haughty behaviors and attitudes. It should be no surprise to the viewer that this criterion sounds like a brisk skip through the tulips of 2019 American culture. Hence the commentary on the significance of a narcissistic apocalypse. For the sake of this installment, we will have to approach narcissism with a more focused and laser beam view, since it is such a massive and multifaceted disease, and the subject group of topic is unique unto itself. We will only have time to address a certain type of narcissism, and that is somatic narcissism. According to Vaknin, the theorist behind the designation, somatic narcissists leverage their bodies, appearance, material assets, and mainly their sexuality to secure an uninterrupted flow of attention and adulation. We could look at this illness as a fertility goddess complex. Though men statistically exhibit pathological narcissism at a higher rate, as of recent, female narcissism has been on an alarming increase, especially due to the generational breakdown of the family causing increase in childhood abuse, as well as an overrepresentation of somatic narcissist types in entertainment and contemporary pop culture. Included with a full cultural takeover by social media platforms that have been scientifically proven to influence and cultivate narcissism, applications like Instagram and TikTok are of most influence currently. The emerging persona and histrionic identity of the IG thought is a great example of this. And the same behaviors, values, and messages are mirrored in a complementary fashion via mainstream and independent scene entertainment. The point being, somatic narcissism isn't merely a condition of the famous and disturbed, but it is now becoming a distinctive trait and attribute of the general public, and most importantly, the millennial and Z generations. What are the typical features of somatic narcissism? Though there is much overlap between men and women in expression of behavior traits, women seem to present more of a hypersexualized and seductive set of behaviors. More of what we would call histrionic traits seem to be present within somatic female thoughts. Histrionic behavior, borrowed from the traits of histrionic personality disorder, a subset of cluster B narcissistic patterns, is mainly described by an obsessive need of attention, positive or negative, with a preoccupation with the need to be the center of attention, coupled with exaggerated affect or inauthentic emotionality and dramatic behavior, followed by very seductive, sexualized, overall nature. The attention and status achieved through sexual seduction is the oxygen that the histrionic breathes. Though histrionics can display themselves in unique ways, they often boil down to either introvert or extroverted presentations. A good example here would be the difference between Ariana Grande and Miley Cyrus. both through their public displays, appear to demonstrate textbook examples of histrionic somatic narcissistic features. But both exhibit rather opposing styles of histrionic presentation. We will go into how these types of behaviors develop, but for this presentation we will focus on pointing out signs, symbols, and cultural significance within somatic narcissism. Somatic narcissists in pop culture entertainment typically display behaviors of a sex addict or the histrionic. One important point to make here is that sex addiction is always synonymous with narcissism. This goes with porn addiction and masturbatory fixations as well. These are all different signifiers of narcissistic illness. Though we also must mention that not all narcissists are sex addicts or porn addicts, but all sex addicts and porn addicts are inherently narcissistic. We will also eventually be going into the development of these toxic preoccupations as well, but let us continue. A glaring component of somatic narcissism is the obsession and distorted identification with one's body, properly termed dysmorphia. All narcissists suffer from dysmorphia to degrees, yet the somatic variety suffers in the most debilitating way. The current thought and processes thereof are imbued with identity and bodily dissatisfaction and confusion, or some level of body shape obsession. Most importantly, the body is always used to sexually seduce, sometimes in subtle ways, and in others overtly. But the body and appearance is always utilized and accentuated to garner attention or praise, envy, or lust. It becomes a source for and a gauge to determine self-value. Since the thought process is void of a complete and stable sense of self, a lack of depth, substance, and character, they resort to a base-level form of consciousness and identification. She becomes an object and objectifies herself in order to create a self, an image to provide some sense of meaning or purpose. The postmodern era thought of today is a somatoform, or a woman with warped body issues and a low sense of self-worth. Usually exaggerated, promoted, and accentuated for praise, the somatic narcissist hates their body, as they do themselves, and they leverage it like a tool to secure a false and sexualized sense of self-identity. Evidence for this idea is their exaggerated and distorted display of bodily proportions. They aim to advertise themselves as a caricature and not a natural human being. Similar to a bulimic, a sufferer of anorexia, or the gear obsession of bodybuilding gym bros, the perfect body-fixated somatic narcissist is incapable of rationally perceiving the true state of their own bodies. In their eyes, it is always flawed and deviates from their twisted sense of perfection or cultural standard. Hence their obsessive motivation to enhance it, poke it, and fill it with substances, or purge, defile, and pervert their form until it appears to fit within the demented vision they faithfully nurse in their minds. What's worse is the trends that follow. By way of the halo effect, and cult of personality, and cult of celebrity, these dysmorphia-born demented visions become normalized into society and pop culture. Their cartoonish bodies are lusted after by the sexes for no good, healthy, or rational reason, and even mimicked and adopted by the narcissistic general population.